conference realignment. So as you all know, the conference media days are here. The ACC, SEC, Big Ten, already done as far as the powers five go, as well as Big 12. Pac-12 is just getting their started today. For some reason, they decided to do the last people standing, but whatever. But the point is that amongst the excitement of the media day, because we all know that college football is right around the corner. And after we thought that the bombshell, the big news was the college football playoff rather, possibly expanded to 12 teams. As excited as we got over that, the bombshell that came out of no freaking where. Texas, Oklahoma, first inquiring about joining the SEC, then said, you know what? Screw it. We want out. Big 12, it's been nice, it's been real, but we're not renewing the grant of rights in 2025. So still giving y'all a heads up, but we out here. So it's crazy. God damn. So the SEC with Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Georgia, Florida, A&M, Texas A&M. Now they're on the verge. If they're going to vote on it, I think is all but certain now. Texas and Oklahoma. At least 8 brands in one damn conference. And man, I think it's the SEC's world and we're all living in it at this point, because I know it's a Power 5, but it's really a Power 2. It comes to money with the SEC and the Big Ten. But really it's about to be a Power 1. That's the SEC. I'm an ACC guy, but I appreciate good football when I see it. I've always been a fan of SEC football, but this is crazy. So Jeff, we're gonna go, since I have you on as your ACC guy, let's well, first of all, before we get to the ACC side of things, how crazy was this announcement that the SEC is on the verge of adding Texas and Oklahoma to the other collection of talent in one conference?
I mean, it was a stunner. It was an absolute stunner. It came out of nowhere. Nobody saw it coming. What I think is kind of funny now is you got everyone coming out of the woodwork saying what's going to happen next. And, not a single person knew what was going on for 6 months, during this negotiation. So,
Right.
if you say you got sources, you don't really have any sources. When they want to keep it quiet, they'll keep it quiet. But
right.
it was stunning. I really agree with you, Scott. It's, it took it from being a Power 2 to really like a Power 1. I mean, all those brands, the power they've already a successful, football league. Arguably, we're already the biggest conference, most powerful conference with the Big Ten, but now they just sprinted out ahead of the Big Ten, which puts them even further ahead of the ACC and Pac-12, and just killed the Big 12 all in one shot. So it's a wild time, and now it's just left the rest of the Power 5 just scrambling for what they're going to do next. So, I mean, in a way, you got to give the SEC credit. I mean, they saw two brands like that, and Oklahoma and Texas allegedly go to them first. We don't know who talked to who first, but they saw opportunity, took advantage of it, and now they're going to have a absolute mega conference of brands, of football, of you name it, football wise. I mean, they just took another leap ahead of the rest of the country.
Yeah. And Dwayne, I know some people are looking at this first blush like, okay, Texas, Oklahoma, especially Texas, you're going to go from where you had a great shot making the college football playoff to getting your ass kicked on half the year by Alabama. I think A&M is better than Texas right now, to be honest with you. It's A&M, LSU. Because they keep it in divisions, I don't think they will much longer. But if they keep it in divisions, they're going to kick. I've already heard that they're going to kick Alabama and Auburn to the east. And with the West, they'll move Missouri back west. So essentially, you will have LSU, you have A&M, and maybe Arkansas. They're recruiting better, along with Oklahoma and Texas. So Oklahoma owns Texas, so they'll beat their brains in. LSU will definitely beat their brains in. A&M, imagine how A&M pissed off A&M is. So you know they're going to take it out on them on the football field. So that's at least 3 L's in your own division. And depends on how Lane Kiffin does at Ole Miss. He's going to turn things around. And the Pirate guy will turn things around in Mississippi State. So you got at least 5 grinders in one division. And then you got to rotate on the East. So it's not like having these slouches. Alabama's going back east. Auburn's going back east. You got damn Florida and Georgia. That's 4. So good luck with that, Texas. Good freaking luck with that. But I think it comes down to if the college football playoff expansion is going to be really true.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be true because, and I think Texas Oklahoma knows a little something that we don't, the rest of us do not, because that way, I mean, what's the expansion going to be like? I think the top is going to be the automatic qualifiers go to the 6
the Power 5 conferences. The Power 5 conferences. The highest ranked Group of 5 team, and then 6 at large.
Where do you think is going to get the 6 at largest now?
Now, see, that's interesting that you bring that up, right? Because we talked about that last night.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and also interesting that you talked about the negative aspect of Oklahoma and Texas going over to the SEC. And I'll get to that in a minute because
sure.
I always think about the negative things, the situations first, instead of immediately, everyone immediately rushes to the positive. Oh my God, they're going to the SEC. This is big. I thought the negative stuff first. But as it pertains to the playoffs, that was the question I asked the guys on Sleazy last night about those 6 at-large bids.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, conspiracy theory coach was like, okay, yeah. My question was, wouldn't it be a situation where those teams that were competing in the conference championship games, whether or not those would be the teams that would be considered to be at-large bids? Coach was like, no, it'll probably be about another 2 or 3 SEC teams again. Yeah, which sounds about right. But if that's the case, it's still not an automatic lock for Oklahoma and Texas. It was guaranteed in the Big 12, especially for Oklahoma, the way that they've been playing ball for the past few years.
I think Oklahoma would be fine. They're just recruiting at another level and playing at another level. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I don't know if they necessarily will come out as a conference champion. So that it will be hopeful, right?
That's fair.
That they will be in that mix of fighting for an at-large bid. And that's something they would have to do on an annual basis with, like you said, LSU, Georgia, who else? Auburn. So that's 3 programs right there. They're fighting for, you got 4 programs off the top of our head.
Sure.
Without thinking about Georgia and Florida, that's 5. You got 5 teams potentially fighting for 2 slots. And it's not going to be guaranteed as it was for them, or it's a lot easier for them in the Big 12 to do that. And one of the things I noticed, if you think about it, with both Texas and Oklahoma leaving, that means out of the last 29 championships that this conference has, the last 29 champions that this conference has, 20 of them will be out of the conference. 14 being with Oklahoma. Texas has 3. Nebraska has 3, I think, and Colorado has 2 who've been gone. So, yes, yes, the Big 12 is losing a lot of their power. I think there's an opportunity there for them to rebuild. They won't be who they once been, but technically they still would be the 5th best conference out of the Power 5, especially if they got the right teams. My thing was the cautionary tale that is Nebraska in the Big 10. I have no idea why Texas didn't look at that and say, I don't know if I want to be them. let me stay in the Big 12 and at least be a big dog if Oklahoma lead. Now, we were already the big dog because we were able to bully the entire conference into not having a network. You got to run all things through me. And if you want to do expansion, if I don't like it, it ain't happening. Yo, that's not happening in the SEC no more. You can't go to the SEC and be a bully. Not to them. So I just found it weird that the bully on the block in the Big 12 is deciding to leave. I don't know necessarily this is a better financial move for them. Yes, they're a big name and they're a big brand, but they were also a big fish in a smaller conference. Now they go into a conference with a bunch of sharks. How they or will they survive? I don't know. And it's very much possible they could be just like Nebraska in the Big 12.
You know what? That's interesting you bring that. And Jeff, I'm gonna throw it back to you right quick. We all remember what happened with Nebraska, right? That's the side. That's what happens when you lead with your heart instead of with your brain. Now I understand Nebraska being pissed off at Texas. Hell, A&M was, Colorado was, Missouri was. Hell, Missouri was this close to going to the Big Ten. It would have been the Big Ten if a certain president or was the governor didn't run his mouth and spilled the beans before it actually happened. There was supposed to be a Big Ten team, but that's not here nor there. But the point is that because they are also part of the AAU, the prestigious organization of colleges.
Yes,
Missouri is, and so is Texas. But Missouri was, but I know, right? But Missouri, they were supposed to be, if the rumors are correct, way back when, they were supposed to be headed to the Big Ten instead of Nebraska. But anyway, but Nebraska, remember, they were so pissed off, they didn't give in the reason. They said, essentially, fuck Texas, we're out. And got a landing spot in the Big Ten, which adversely affected their recruiting. Because recruiting is the lifeblood.
Nobody's heard from Nebraska in like 10 years now.
Yeah, I mean, because they used to recruit a lot of Texas players because why? They would spend much time in the Big 12 in the state of Texas. That's why they were so good under Tom Osborne all those years. They played Nebraska, they played Oklahoma, every year. Even when they went to the divisions, it was like every other year. But the point was that they were able to convince Texas recruits that their mom and papas and aunties and them would get to see them play when they go down to Texas, go down to A&M, go down to Texas Tech, Baylor, you name it, for conference play. So that's how they got all the great athletes. But of course, who are you going to convince for the state of Texas to go ball in the Midwest?
Yeah, and Nebraska can't recruit East. They can't go East because that's the rest of the Big Ten and the ACC. So they pretty much are landlocked right there in a couple states in the Midwest. And I mean, they were already on a downward decline when they left. And I mean, then they go to the Big Ten and they just completely have not been heard from. I mean, their program is just in total disarray and decay right now. I mean, who would have thought that, under those Tom Osborne years that they would ever have fallen the way they were. So yeah, they cash a nice big check, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's still about winning games and championships, and they can't do that in the Big Ten. And like Dwayne was saying, yeah, you might make more, maybe you make more money, but there's value in being in the big fish in the little pond when you got a better shot at getting to the playoffs. That's what you want at the end of the day is titles, not just big checks. Everybody's got a big check in the SEC.
Right.
See, and that's the thing, right? And that's the thing that I question, right? I'm sorry to interrupt, Scott.
No, go ahead.
I want to go ahead and most definitely catch on that financial aspect, right? Because if you look at what happened with Maryland and Rutgers going over to the to the Big Ten as well, Maryland's competing basketball wise. The women's basketball team is most definitely competing in the Big 12 and when Big 10 and winning championships there as well. My question is this, right? Because ADs have to look at the grand scope of their entire program. And of course, a lot of times we as fans only look at one sport where they look at everything. But my thing is this, even if you lose in football, which is of course their biggest sport, What else are you going to go win in the SEC? Texas? And the thing is, even when you had the ability to recruit well when you were in the Big 12, you still weren't winning then.
Right.
Now there's an opportunity you're going to lose out to recruits because they may want to go to other teams within the SEC because they've beaten you down on a regular basis,
Right.
which is another reason why I'm shaking my head and scratching my head as well and thinking to myself, yo, how wise was this? Because I don't even know if it's necessarily a better money move for them, especially with them having their own network.
Right.
So my guess is, and that's only because I don't know the financial aspect of it. But to say all of that, to wrap that up with, along with thinking about football and winning, yes, AD's also thinking about the financial aspect of it too. So my guess is they may think, or they must think, that this is a better situation for them financially. But at the same time, yo, Texas, you did this to yourself. You being a bully caused your conference not to have a network, only because you wanted it all to yourself. Now you're moving over to a situation where you will have your own, but when you will be in a network, but will that financially be better? Well, like I said, I don't understand the business aspect of it. Someone a lot smarter than me will be able to explain that to me and probably tell me that it is, but it's going to be to the detriment of them winning.
You know what? I think Texas looked at A&M when the A&M started getting all those recruits from Texas, because they used to be able to go to Texas kids and go, you know what? You can ball in the SEC and stay at home. So that's how they were getting the better recruits the last 2-3 seasons under Jimbo Fisher. And so they're only going up. The trajectory is going up with A&M. And when there's been going down with Texas the last few seasons. So, you know, Longhorn faithful, when I say faithful, I mean the powers that be, the movers and shakers, looked at the little brother A&M walking out in the SEC, getting all those recruits. And remember, they were this close to making the college football playoff. They were ranked 5th. A&M was ranked 5th above an undefeated University of Cincinnati. But that's not a story for another time. But the point is that they were right there. So if the college football playoff was at 12 teams or even 8, A&M would have been in. So Texas was looking at that and say, hey, we can't let our little brothers punk us like this. You know, that's go ahead.
But my thing is, though, how often is that going to happen for Texas A&M? And now for Texas, if they move over to the SEC? Because that glass ceiling that we already know is there, that's called Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, LSU. Those 5 teams right there, we already know what they've done over the past 15, 20 years. What has Texas and Texas A&M done? Even in the Big 12.
But you know what, though?
For Texas.
But Texas A&M, I think they were on the cusp last year. Remember, they finished right outside the top 4. If winning for Notre Dame joined the ACC for a year, A&M would have been the 4th team. Let's just be honest, right? So, but here's the deal, which is why A&M is more pissed than ever, because they're like, well, shit, we're almost out of Texas' shadow. We right there. The only team that used this problems was Alabama. We were right there, and now our home is invited the unwanted guest. The big brother that we try to get coming in.
Here we come.
Yeah, the guy that we try to get the hell away from, the big brother, if you will, that tried to get out of our shadow and try to sun us all these years. They're back. You know A&M is pissed. And remember that statement that the AD put out, Jeff, that pretty much said we're going to do all we can to protect the Aggies. They had no clue.
Yeah. Oh, no. They
know that they had no clue about this.
They're absolutely the most unhappy program in the SEC. The other 13 are fine with it, but Texas A&M, I mean, you know, it really does hurt them because I mean, it was a gut punch, and I mean, they were the Texas school recruiting into the SEC. And you know, we talk about them almost making the playoffs, and I think with Texas joining, I think that was their window I don't see
Yeah.
them, you know, they might make the playoffs, but I don't see them winning a national championship anytime soon. Because what Texas is going to pull from them now in the recruiting, yeah, that was a big blow to Texas A&M. It kind of shows you where the Aggies are in the pecking order of the SEC. That to me, that showed them like, hey, you're in the conference, but you know, you're not one of the big dogs here.
You know what? The leadership, i.e., the commissioner, Greg Sankey, as well as the athletic director at Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, probably LSU, we're probably like, yeah, they'll be all right.
Yeah,
they probably do
pretty
this to A&M and said, yeah, they'll be all right.
Don't worry about them.
Yeah, we're gonna be all right.
It's them, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. They'll be all right. They'll be all right. But you know what? If I'm Texas A&M though, what I would do, especially if I'm a football recruiter, I'm going out and I'm like, yeah, they're Texas, but they ain't Texas. They lose their network. You know what I'm saying? They haven't been winning. At least we've been having success recently.
Right.
What have they done recently? I mean, who are they? What's the successful coach at Texas? What was his name?
Matt Brown.
Matt Brown. Matt Brown ain't walking through that door. Matt Brown is comfortable in Chapel. He's comfortable in Chapel Hill. He ain't coming back. Who's coming? I mean, what? You want to go save them with the head coach they got now? Have you seen that Bama's record? Do you see what he did in the Big 12? You see what we did in the Big 10 in the SEC? Come join us. Don't go to them. Yeah, they got the brand. So what? The horns, we don't care. We winning games. What? You want to win games or you want to do this? Which one you want to do?
See,
so that would be my pitch. That would be my pitch.
And plus, you mentioned coaching. Coach Sarkisian, now headed to Texas. Put up all those points to Alabama, made all those Alabama quarterbacks look good, right? From Tua to damn, what's that kid who got drafted by the Patriots? Mac Jones.
Mac Jones.
Yeah,
Mac Jones.
Yeah, I'm about to say it sounds like a rapper, Mac Jones. But anyway, shout out to Houston. But the point is that they're getting an offensive mind. He has helped recruit. Has helped Nick Saban recruit those offensive talent. That offensive talent that they've been having. So Texas is looking at that and saying, well, wait a minute, and maybe this was Sarkisian. Maybe that was part of the deal. You know what I'm saying? You never know. This came out of nowhere. You never know. I mean, because he's Nick Saban's guy. He knows, like, you know what? If you guys want me to get players, not lose to A&M, we gotta think bigger. And thinking bigger, I mean, leaving this Big 12 shit, head east. Why not? Because that's how he got his talent. He knows. Sarkisian knows. And so I'm just fascinated to see, we're talking about Texas all the time, right? I'm interested to see how Oklahoma, with their coach, the offensive minded coach that they have, I think their ceiling is higher right now. Yeah. I think their ceiling is higher than Texas is right now because the
almost
talent,
definitely.
Because the talent that they're bringing every single year, and they're going to bring in more talent now. Because, well, I say now that they're going to join this year, but they're going to bring in more talent because you brought the ball in the SEC, bro. Get to up your offensive game and ball against really the best on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, Oklahoma's they're just a handful of defensive linemen from being able to really compete with the Alabamas. Because offensively, I mean, they've proven they can move the football. Pretty much anyone they play. They're just a handful of defensive recruits, from being able to compete. So I definitely agree with you. Oklahoma is definitely going to enter that situation in a lot better shape than Texas is.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I found funny, because it seems as though that everyone that I've heard so far, you guys can correct me on this, but everyone I've heard talk about this move has always called it Texas, Oklahoma. But I'm like, yo, being that this is a football move, let's be real, it should be Oklahoma, Texas.
Yeah.
That's the way it should be talked about. Oklahoma, Texas. Oh my God, they moved. But I understand Texas is the brand and blah, blah, blah. But this is a football move. This is because of, let's be real, Oklahoma is bringing the better talent on the football side of it.
Yeah. And I don't see that changing. again, I don't know how Sark's going to do down there, but some tells me Lincoln Riley and the boys in Oklahoma, they're going to keep churning offensive talent. Dude's offensive mind. I think to your point, Jeff, if they get a few more where they're at right now, defensive talent, because they've been getting better defensively the last 2 seasons.
Yep.
If they can, because they had a couple bad losses last year that kept them out of the college football playoff. But if they get more defensive talent, they got the coaching now. I think they still have, what's the name of that black dude that used to coach at ECU, East Carolina, that's under the staff now? I forget his name. God.
And I can't think of who he is now, top of my head either.
But anyway, he's been helping out with the defense, and Lincoln Riley holds him in higher esteem. And so he's been helping improve the defense. It's been gradually getting better. So Oklahoma's really right there right now. Mm-hmm. So imagine whenever the timetable is, when it's 2025 or I'm here in 2022, when they make the move to the SEC, how much better that program would be. So that would be absolutely bananas. But given that this is this, and also one more thing, I mean, I would be remiss. We talked about A&M getting the shaft. I ain't like being Vanderbilt right now.
They got a good baseball program.
They got the baseball program,
yeah. But the baseball program, definitely.
But how do you keep getting those checks and still get your ass beat? It's like Bohica. Bend over, here it comes again. You know.
Well, I mean, that's how you do it, because you're like, at least the baseball team's winning. Give us those football checks.
It's like like a trick. It's like, give me the money. I'm bending over. Give me the money. Anyway, okay. Again, we promise that this is